Hey, what's up YouTube? My name is Mr. Kyle Cohen. Thank you so much for clicking on my YouTube channel and today's video. So to be completely honest, I almost didn't even pick up the camera this week. I have been so overwhelmed with everything going on in our country with the presidential election. I had conferences this week on top of that, and being back in school 5 days a week with all students present in a global health crisis, the amount of layers and things that have been going on this week is just been nothing short of overwhelming, and quite honestly, I just didn't want to film a video and post it online. But I honestly could really use the distraction right about now. I could really use an outlet, and I was really excited for the opportunity to talk to you all today about conferences. Now, I'll never forget during my first year of teaching, I was really overwhelmed by this idea of conferences. I am a recent college graduate, and I have to sit down with parents or family members and provide them information about their child, and it felt really daunting and really scary. But after time, I picked up a few tips and tricks along the way that have allowed me to seamlessly move through conferences and find ways that really work for me that I'm excited to share with you all today. One of the big barriers that I have found with conferences is the fact that families need to physically come to school. Whether it is work schedules, transportation, childcare concerns, it's not always convenient for families to physically come to school. In the past, I've always offered a virtual or phone conference, whatever is most convenient for families, and I think that's what's really important for us to consider. So often I hear teachers complaining about families that don't come or don't respond, but we really need to be putting that burden on ourselves. Now, it's unrealistic that I'm going to be able to chase down every single parent or family member or guardian of a child, but it is realistic that I'm going to try. So for me, what I did was I reached out to all of my families via email. I sent them an email telling them how excited I am for the opportunity to talk about their child and the things that are going so well for them and the things that we can continue to improve on, and I made a point to reach out to them early. I sent out a sign up genius with the specific dates and times that I have available for conferences, and this worked out great. Families were able to access us on their phone or on a computer or on a device. They were able to sign up for conferences weeks in advance. So that was one thing I did on the front end. Send out the sign up genius, take care of all of that so I could make sure everyone was at least signed up. For me and my 19 students, I had pretty much every single family signed up on Sign Up Genius. With a week left to go before conferences, I really wanted to prioritize that Sign Up Genius as a way of holding myself and families accountable for setting the time aside to just have this opportunity to talk. So that worked out really well. And the families that weren't signed up, I gave them a call, I sent a reminder email just to make sure that they saw it so we can set that time aside. Not only did I take care of the Sign Up Genius ahead of conferences, but I also got some logistical things set aside on my end ahead of time. And I'm going to show you a few of those things that I do right now. The first being a student survey. Conference time conveniently falls right at the end of the first quarter, and at the end of every quarter, I really like to ask my students what their thoughts are on our classroom. What are their thoughts on me as their teacher? What is working? What is not working? And I don't think teachers take enough time to really critically reflect on their craft, on their pedagogy. We are constantly needing to improve and adapt and be the best we can be for our students, and this year is so different. I want to make sure that I am meeting all of my students where they are at and providing them with an education that they need. So right here, I am sharing a student survey, and this student survey is an opportunity for students to really reflect on me, for them to really get to think about me as their teacher, what their thoughts are, what is working, how I'm doing, how our classroom feels, and things like that. So you see questions like, overall, how high are your teacher's expectations of you? How often does your teacher encourage you to share your ideas or opinions about what you are learning in class? How often does your teacher let you think for a few seconds before you have to answer a question? This is a really short survey. It is 14 questions in total, and it gives students an opportunity to reflect on our classroom, and it gives me really important data to look at, to make changes, to tweak things that are not working, to ultimately provide an incredible classroom community for all students. I find that teachers get nervous when it comes to doing something like this, and I sometimes get asked by coworkers, why do you decide to do this? What if the information isn't strong? What if there are things that you need to change? And honestly, to that I say, great. I need to know if students are not finding things to be going smoothly or to be working in a way that's great for them or equitable for them. So I tell my students ahead of time to take this seriously. They don't have to put their name on it. It's really just for me to think about and consider. And I have found that every semester, every quarter that I do this, it provides me with really helpful information that just makes me an even better teacher. So I find this information really helpful to do after the first quarter as conferences begin to come around as a way to, again, just reflect. But I also want to provide students an opportunity to reflect on their own performance as learners. So what I do is I have students do a second reflection, and this is what I call glows and grows. Students do write their name on this document, and they write 3 glows. So what are 3 things that you are doing well that you want to continue doing for the second quarter? And what are 3 things that you are not doing well that you want to improve on or change for the second quarter? Students do not have an opportunity to often reflect on themselves. And as we move into conferences and as we move into this time of the year, not only is it my job to be thinking about how I can be best supporting students, but it's their job to be thinking about how they want to improve, how they want to show up at school. And I find this to be a really awesome practice to incorporate into my classroom that you might want to do as well. So before conferences, I prepare the Sign Up Genius. I do both of these Google Forms with students to get all of this data. Then I take everything that I have and I compile it into one place. This document drives my conferences. This is how I facilitate conferences. All of my information gets put into this one document and I use it to navigate the 20-25 minute conference that I have with families. So here's an example. Let me go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So this is my fall conference form. I use it as a way to, again, just communicate to families what is going on with their child. And I find that this specific agenda and this strategy has been really effective for me. So I put all this information in ahead of time, my information up at the top. I put the student's name, the date of the conference, and who attended. The glows and grows go right here at the top. The student glows and grows, that's the information I took from the Google form. So I essentially just copy and paste that information right onto this document. You'll see that this particular student wrote their information. I do the same thing then. I write 3 glows, what are 3 things that the student is doing awesome at, and 3 things that they can improve on. These are 3 overall trends that I am gathering and seeing with students that I really want to articulate with families. So I make sure to highlight these at the beginning of conferences as a way of going over everything. And I think by starting with what students are thinking and feeling is a really helpful way to ease into the conference. It might take any awkwardness out because these are students' words. I didn't make up these things. I didn't write these things. Students are specifically reflecting on their own performance, and it then transitions really well into what I have to say. Moving on to academic information, I highlight first quarter grades, any other data points or assessments that we use for English language arts. That can include students' Fontes and Pinnell score, other benchmarks and assessments that we use. Sometimes if students are struggling, I'll have a few suggestions for interventions that families can be providing at home. If not, I'll just put some more positive things that they can continue doing that are working in that section. And I do the same thing for math. And my final section is just any other notes or comments or questions that come up during the conference, and I use these documents as an opportunity to store all of this information, file it away so it is in one place, everything all together, and it makes conferences from my end really seamless. So that's an overview of what conferences look like for me. It is a little bit of work on the front end, setting up the Sign Up Genius, setting up those Google Forms, putting all of that information into the conference template, but I find that taking the time to do all of this ahead of time, taking the time to really think about each and every student and the conversations that I want to be having with their families is such an effective way of thinking collectively about how we all can be best supporting them and providing them with an education that they deserve. You might think conferences are overwhelming or daunting or even worse, a burden. But for me, having the chance to connect with families and at the end of the day, just tell them how awesome their kid is such a special opportunity that I do not take for granted. Yes, some conversations are difficult. Yes, we have to have some challenging conversations about ways that we can continue to support kids. But at the end of the day, it's an awesome opportunity to just sit back, catch up with families, continue to develop those relationships in order to provide students with an awesome education. I really hope this video was helpful, and I'm curious to hear what you do for your conferences. Leave a comment down below sharing how you approach conferences. Have you had your conferences already this year? What does that look like? When are they going to be? Really excited to hear from all of you. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I so appreciate you being here, and I'll catch you in the next one.